Welcome to the TAC Index AI podcast, January 8, 2026, where we blend TAC, IP data, reports, and charts with the latest news in all things logistics with a focus on air cargo. So we've got a really fascinating set of data to get into today. The mission, as always, is to take a deep dive into this week's numbers and, connect the dots between air cargo rates and what's happening in the wider world.
And the big headline this week is the slump. It's that completely predictable post-peak drop we always see in the new year.
Right.
The global Baltic air freight index, the BAI0, fell sharply. We're talking a drop of 14.1% week over week through January 5th.
Okay, so a big seasonal drop, but how does that stack up against last year?
That's the critical question. It's also down 11.4% compared to this time last year. So that suggests this correction is a bit deeper than usual.
Deeper than usual, and I'm guessing the big Asian hubs really felt that.
Oh, absolutely. The immediate pressure was intense. Outbound Shanghai, that's BAI80, just plummeted, almost 20% week over week.
Wow, 20%.
And Hong Kong, BAI30, dropped about 12.8%. But, and this is the important part, their year-over-year drops were actually pretty moderate.
Okay, so what were they?
Shanghai was only down 6.1% year-over-year, and Hong Kong just 3.9%. So, they had a monster peak season. This is just them settling the bill.
Right, so their pain is more short-term. But if we compare that to what's happening in the West, it's a very different picture, isn't it?
A very different story, yeah. Take Chicago, the BAI50 index. It dropped 14.3% week over week, which, mirrors that seasonal pattern.
Okay, that makes sense.
But it's languishing 33.9% lower than it was a year ago.
33.9. That feels structural. That's not just a post-holiday slump.
Exactly. And Frankfurt tells a similar tale. A smaller weekly drop, sure, about 4.8%, but it's down a steep 25.3% year over year.
So what does that tell you? Is general demand just evaporating in the U.S. and Europe?
It really points to a structural weakness there. It suggests that general cargo demand has fallen off a cliff much faster in Western markets than in Asia. Maybe inventory correction, maybe shifting sourcing patterns.
But in all of this, there's a fascinating exception. It's the one that sort of proves the rule.
Taiwan. While everything else is sinking, rates from Taiwan actually gained week over week. And more importantly, they are still up year over year.
To both Europe and the U.S.
To both. And that resilience is from one thing and one thing only. Semiconductors.
Which connects directly to the macro market. I mean, the S&P 500 just hit a record high on January 7th, and it was driven entirely by that AI trade. NVIDIA, Alphabet, Microsoft.
That's the perfect connection. When the financial markets value those companies so highly, the actual cost of air freighting the chips they need becomes almost irrelevant.
It's a protected fast lane for that cargo.
Precisely. The financial strength justifies it completely.
But okay, while those chips are in their own little bubble, we have to talk about the rising geopolitical risk for the next thing in the supply chain, the raw materials.
Yes, we just saw China ban dual-use exports to Japan. And the language from Tokyo was that this was absolutely unacceptable.
And for anyone listening, dual use just means tech that has both civilian and military applications, right?
Exactly. And this move, coupled with Beijing's, looming threat to curb rare earth exports, it raises huge questions about supply chain certainty.
Why are those rare earths so important for logistics planners?
Because they're absolutely vital for the powerful magnets in electric and hybrid vehicle motors. Japan is hugely dependent on China for those. I mean, imagine you're the logistics planner at Toyota or Subaru right now.
You're not worried about this week's spot rates?
Not at all. You're staring at a spreadsheet trying to figure out how to guarantee your supply for 2027. This injects massive long-term uncertainty into manufacturing.
And one final piece of macro data here. U.S. factory orders fell 1.3% back in October, and that fall was dragged down specifically by declines in the volatile aircraft category.
So putting it all together, what do we have? It's not just two different markets, it's almost two different shipping philosophies at play. You have the general air freight market in a slump.
A deep one in the West.
Right. But at the same time, you have this intensely strong, almost immune demand for specialized high-value cargo like semiconductors. And layered on top of all of that, you have escalating trade disputes, creating huge vulnerabilities for critical minerals.
Which leaves a big question for you to think about. Given the steep decline in Western hub rates compared to Asia's continued strength in these critical sectors, is the air freight market heading toward two very different recovery paths? Until next time.